Before we start, we need to tell you up front we are not a licensed financial planning, accounting or law firm. This is simply an education program which will give you factual information. We do not give any general or specific advice around finance, business, investing, options trading or anything else. That is not what this presentation does. Please see a licensed financial planner when it comes to any investment advice you need.
It's great to welcome you, Derek. Welcome to your own show, mate.
Comes around so quick. It's so good to see you. You've changed since I saw you. You've lost the facial hair, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'm feeling very uncomfortable. I'm feeling very naked. I'm not going to lie. I've had this for 5 years
good,
now.
Man. You're good.
It's a good lie. I appreciate that.
You get better looking every day. That's what you say.
Okay, we'll go with that. Okay. Clearly your glasses are getting thicker by the day, but okay. Over there we have got Travis. I did have the mic off for that. What did you just say?
His nose is going bigger too.
We'll call you Pinocchio for next week's show. Mate, look, really great to have you here. And I'm really looking forward to today's show. I've heard a little bit of the conversation about what's going into it. And
It's been a huge week for big tech.
Daryl Eatlake there. He's
huge week. Where do we start?
Not in a good way for them either.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. It depends on how you look at things, right? Yeah. The big one I think is Twitter.
Twitter.
American
accents coming out.
Well, it is an American company, so you may as well pronounce it like they do. Elon Musk's purchase of this is massive. It is. In terms of, $44 billion.
I've just had a thought.
To buy it, yeah.
Now that Musk owns it, is it a Canadian company?
Oh, we got 30 seconds in before he went off the track? Yeah.
And then the other side of the social media platform is the Zuckerberg company called Facebook, which it just shared a whopping 90 Zuckerberg has lost $90 billion in 2022. All right, and
put that in perspective. That's more than what's stuck behind this couch right now.
That's more than our education budget. I don't know if that's true or not, but
he's no longer one of the 10 richest in the world. All right, so it's taken him off the richest 10 list.
Wow, hit the
and on Thursday night last week, the company lost. Zuckerberg lost $11 billion more. The stock just absolutely crashed.
Well, hang on, in a day he lost $11 billion.
Yeah.
That's a bad more than what Netflix lost when they refused to remove cuties off their playlist.
Wow. These are numbers I can't even quantify. So, okay, go on, my friend.
So I think it was $6 billion in the first day, and by the end of the week, it was $9 billion.
Wow.
Netflix lost.
So let's put all these stories in context, right? They're two different stories, all happening in the 1 week. Twitter story and the Facebook story, or Meta, if you want to call it that, are two different narratives. So if we look at the biggest difference is, of course, that one of them has lost due to its perception of where it's going. The other has been acquired by an outsider.
Sure.
Right? So putting that in context, I mean, people are saying that Elon Musk has been an expensive year for him as well, and for big tech. And Jeff Bezos has also lost a lot of money this year with Amazon. And I personally believe Amazon will fall further where it's going. And this is after
Why?
Why do I think Amazon's going to lose money?
Yeah. I'm curious on that one.
I'd have to dive in deeper.
Yep. Okay.
For that, I wasn't planning to talk about
Amazon. Sorry, mate. That's all right. Just throw you a left one. No, we can talk about this on another show. That's no problem. I was just curious because, we're seeing these tech giants. Okay, you're seeing Meta, you're seeing what's going on with effectively Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Okay, there's there's three biggies. Obviously, you've got TikTok. Is the one that's growing at the moment.
TikTok,
yes. But they're tech based or all that sort of thing. Whereas Amazon theoretically is product based. So I'm going to be
different business model.
Yeah, very different.
Different businent model completely. Sure, I think social media is going down. First of all, the distrust. People are just going, we're tired of being censored.
Yep.
I mean, when Facebook unliked Australia Media last year.
That's an interesting way to put it, but yeah.
It was, that's how the Prime Minister of the time put it. Yep. And I think it was a clever way to put it. It would just he got every journo offside. He got every media outlet offside. He got users offside who wanted to check into their favorite news media channel. It was just a muscle flex of this is how powerful we are. We can do it. And I think that's when people started waking up and going, and especially politicians too. Things changed when they shut down Trump's Twitter account. Right?
didn't it?
Everything changed because they'd moved from being a platform to facilitate free speech to one who publishes and censors. And this, I think, is where social media has changed, is that it flexes its censorship muscle now. And it's going, hey, we're going to filter what you say. And it's just come out that Facebook did that with the last US election and the whole Hunter Biden laptop.
Yeah.
And
came
also
out with the
censoring
FBI.
not only what you can put out there, but also what you see.
Because
you got to remember there's two sides of the coin. So
Yes.
it's not just so much what you can actually say, but let's say someone finds a way to actually get it out there. They're going then around saying, no, that's not showing up on your feed. That's not showing on your feed.
Sure.
You have to see these feeds because you have to think about it. And I get told off a lot for doing this, but I'm going to compare today, and this is why I've still got a lot of hope for society today versus something like the late 1930s. Back then, you didn't have the internet. You couldn't do your own research, and this is why it's so important because you were either determined by what was on the wireless back then, or what was in the newspaper.
Yep.
Because
the movie theaters were very, very powerful. That was a big part of propaganda back in those days. Yeah.
The amount of propaganda you could push and peddle out that side, and how easily you could control people. Because think about it this way. You didn't one day just go, oh, let's gas 6 million Jews.
Yep.
Like there was a massive lead up to that over years and years and years. It didn't just happen. So these days, as they're trying to start to build up something like that, they can get turned around and go, well, you know what? This is actually bullshit. I can go to another source. I can find out. There's so many different options out there.
This is true.
So, and you've highlighted something I think is going to happen. Of course, the population is moving. We saw massive intake of Telegram, that social media.
Oh, wow.
When that'll happen, people just by the millions in 1 week were just pouring onto a new platform going, we want encryption. We want to be able to say what we want. And getting media and information out to people in our groups and our social groups and community. I think what's interesting too is that you're seeing Zuckerberg at this time slash costs, and that means firing staff.
Sure.
What has happened is that people are moving to other platforms which are now available. We've heard, I can't think of his new name, Kanye West. You help me out.
Yay.
Is it Yay or
Yay?
Yeah, he's been speculating about buying Parler. You've also got these employees, the CEO and the CFO of Twitter being fired, and one of them vowing
immediately marched out of the building as well. Like they weren't even allowed to stick around to get their stuff. They were just marched straight out.
Great moment. Wish I was there.
And they're saying, right, that's it. If you don't rehire me 3 times to what I currently earned, we're going to start our own platform. So what you're having is people just spreading out, but they're also taking their skill sets with them. So you've got to recognize that. Another big difference in this story is that Twitter is going to be privatized. Elon Musk is taking it off the stock exchange and saying, right, we're going to buy back all the shares. This is why on the last 2 days of trading for the stock of Twitter, it's been absolutely flat. Right, there's been hardly any movement because it's below what he's going to buy it for. So all the shareholders are going to be bought out for a bit of a profit. Nobody wants to, wants it to go higher because they don't want to pay too much for it.
Upset the apple cart right now. Yeah, absolutely.
So that will give him a lot of freedom. When you think about that, he is now no longer having to serve shareholders, right? Which is really, really interesting because then that brings a lot more liberty in terms of a publisher. That's one thing I don't have to consider anymore. We can just focus on advertising and other revenue-making ways to boost Twitter's future, as opposed to the model of Facebook, which is we collect all this data on our users and attract advertisers and push it towards them. Now, I'm sure Twitter does a bit of that information gathering as well, the algorithms, etc. But Facebook has the whole shareholder factor in play.
Sure does.
And they've got to keep shareholders happy. They want to see profits over profits over profits. It hasn't been a good year for Facebook or Meta that way.
The other thing as well, you got to take into account as well. You have a look at Zuckerberg's personality versus Elon Musk's personality, where one is extremely sensitive to not allowing people to say what he doesn't want, where the other one is a self-confessed free speech absolutist, where he says no form of speech, whether it's good, bad, hatred, whatever, all of it should be uncensored.
Ultimately, that's the point. Like, okay, if ultimately there's some horrible, disgusting things that people want to say out there, right? But we have the right to hear them, okay? And you need to have that. You need to have every side of the argument to make your own point. And when do you draw that line? Who is the arbiter of the information?
Well, the person who's listening to it is the arbiter, because there's a thing called a mute button or a block button or a ban button. So you can pick who you listen to. You don't like what someone's saying, mute them.
Now, several years ago,
get rid of them.
Yeah, this is kind of related, and work with me on this one. But several years ago, when Gillette did their big push against masculinity, and really they taught boys that you were born evil, you were born broken, right? Okay. Now the way I press mute, okay, is I literally went through my cupboards. I found every Gillette product. I've been shaving with Gillette for years and years and years. I've had every product, even there are other stuff under different names, right? And I went and I threw it all in the bin. I videoed it, okay, and it actually went viral, which is good. Good to see, because people were doing the same thing all over the world, right? That's me voting, okay, with my dollars and cents, right? That's the same as me making that choice. So, and businesses know that, because they had it was an $8 billion write down of Gillette because of the instant reaction that people were so angry. So you're absolutely right. You can press the mute button, you can press the next button, you can go watch something else. Censorship. We have this grey matter in our heads, right? Okay, it's about time we used it. We don't need other people making these decisions for us.
And spot on. We need to take control of ourselves. We're no longer these little delicate flowers that need to be protected.
No.
Like, back in the days, like, you got into a fight as a kid, like your dad turned around and go, "Oh, did you hit him back?" And like, stand up for yourself, actually grow a set of balls and actually defend yourself. You don't need other people to be defending yourselves in everyday society.
It's interesting this comes up in a week where the netball has rejected Gina Rinehart's $15 million sponsorship of their sport.
Absolutely.
Because of politics. Now,
and it's the funny thing, it's not even what Gina said, it's what her dad said, apparently.
Her father, and I'm going to go straight down the barrel on this one, her father, who was born before the First World War, okay, so we're talking about a very old man with very old thoughts, right? Said, who's been dead 38 years, I believe, right? Or near, hang on, or did he say that 38 years ago? Whatever. Basically,
a long time. Let's just run with a long time.
He's been dead for over 30 years. He said this 38 years ago, and now they're wanting her as the daughter to take responsibility. Well, hang on, isn't that a bit like saying that the ISIS wives that are returning to Australia should take responsibility for what their family did? What a load of shit. The fact of the matter is we've got double standards on an absolutely monumental scale. The hypocrisy is off the charts here.
What gets me is, why do so many companies feel they have to take politics into what they do, into their services and their products? Now, I don't mind if somebody stands up and says their truth and they stand for this.
Sure.
But if it disagrees with my values, then suddenly you're going, well, fine, do exactly what you've done, and going, I'm going to take my business elsewhere.
Exactly. It was absolutely disagreed. It was 180 degrees on my personal values. I believe that, children should be cherished and loved and built up, not beaten down and not told that they're born as defective human beings because of their gender. Right. So that is my way, my little, little Aaron, what he can do with his few bucks is throw that stuff in the bin and never ever purchase another one from them. And I think that I don't understand exactly what you're saying. I do not get why businesses feel they need to be in our bedroom, in our kitchen, in our house like that. You know what? End of the day, make the stuff, build the stuff, we'll buy the stuff, shut the hell up. You do what you're good at, and you do not need to be socially engineering the world.
There's a chicken company at the moment advertising in a way that disagrees with my values. And I go, it's chicken. I just want to buy chicken.
Yeah.
If I want to use their services, why do I have to have these woke ideas thrown at me? And I think we're seeing the pushback down in society. I've said it before, everybody's catched up on the thing. You go woke, you go broke.
Yep.
Everybody's picking on this. So it's going to be interesting to see where things go in the future, where companies are going to go, let's get back to business. And that is doing the great services we do without all the hoo-ha of politics and all this other social stuff that's there.
Ooh, I'm about to pick a fight.
Okay. Pick away.
So we've just been saying how great Elon Musk is because he's given us a platform for absolute free speech, which is great. Should CEOs be allowed to have their free speech as well?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Isn't that what Gillette did?
No. Gillette didn't. What they did is misuse their power.
Spot on. No. Okay. So they did, in our opinion. So I absolutely 100% agree with you. I did exactly the same thing. I didn't even look at the brand of my razor, and we were doing the Movember thing. So I had a video of me shaving, and the first comment was, I can't believe you're using Gillette. So the very next day I threw it in the bin because I didn't even think, oh shit, that's a Gillette razor. So
that's right.
I now use Audi, which is some knockoff cheap shit, and hence the reason why I've still got a beard. So and it is actually really funny because that was actually the day I decided to grow a beard, because I refuse to use razors because I don't know where they're coming from. Anyway, so the point is the CEO or the board of Gillette had the right to say, right, this is how we're going to push it. So
Mhm.
I think the businesses, if they want to go woke, if they want to do that, that's on them.
Yeah, but
but
hang on,
don't
wait.
cry poor when no one wants to buy your shit.
Yeah,
that
hang
was
on.
your decision.
Hang on. As CEO, he's
Yep.
a representative of that company, which
Spot-
means
spot
he's
on.
a representative of the shareholders, right?
Yep.
So him pushing his idea on all those shareholders,
Mhm.
that's affecting their dollars and cents,
The
right?
shareholders have the ability to remove him as CEO.
Yes, and that's what they should do.
Yeah,
But the problem
did they?
is, no.
Why
right?
not?
Why? Because profits. Okay.
Because they probably share his belief.
No, I don't agree with that. I think
Probably there,
I
keyword
think no, it's the same
Yep.
as like every 3-4 years when we have an election and we
Switch from one Muppet to another.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, we just change the color of the Muppet, right?
Yeah.
It's because we're not that invested in them. We haven't done all our research and that sort of thing. And quite frankly, if I had shares in a company and my dividends were coming in, like I'm not going to go, into great depth of what this human being is about. I want him to shut the hell up, do his job, and make me money.
Yep.
Right? That's it.
And as a potential share buyer,
Mm.
you have the ability to, again, vote not only just with your
Spot
products,
on.
but also what companies you buy. So
Yep.
if you don't follow the mentality of that company,
Mhm.
don't buy their shares
That's
either.
right.
So that's your ability to speak. So personally, I think the businesses, the CEOs and all that should have the ability to say, right, this is what I think, but they have to suffer the consequences. And if they should not be allowed to then turn around to the government and say, oh, woe is me, I've lost $6 billion and I have to fire all these people.
Mhm.
The government shouldn't be the ones to bail them out because that's the taxpayers that have to pay that.
Well, whether you like it or not, we're expressing a value right now, and
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
the
yeah,
value
yeah.
of freedom of speech. And if
Absolutely.
you don't think you should have freedom of speech, you will not continue watching this show or listening to this show,
Yeah,
as
right.
per se, right?
So-
Let's be honest with
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's put the exam on ourselves.
Hmm.
It's been also interesting to see the whole Essendon saga play.
Yeah,
With the
another one.
CEO, who was a
Mm,
confessed Christian, happened to be the head of the council on a church board. And of course, this church has come out and had some views as to certain lifestyles in
Sure.
society, which the football club has said we don't like that, and the AFL's condemned, and hence he has lost his position after 24 hours in the job, or probably less than 24 hours in the job.
So
Where do we
this-
stand on that?
This is different because you're discriminating against someone on their personal belief.
Yep.
You're removing them from the ability to do a job. So that's no longer freedom of speech. This is now downright discrimination.
Yeah, exactly right.
So
And that's the thing, discrimination, right? When you basically go, you've got different color hair to me, different color skin to me, you're different gender to me, whatever, and you're effectively saying your opinions and your value isn't as high as mine because of that reason. That's a different thing. Discrimination is absolutely wrong in
that's where
whatever.
you treat someone differently based on one of these things.
Sure. So his
So
religious
that's not just
beliefs-
pulling people down, but that's also putting people up.
Yeah.
So on the flip
True.
side, let's say they turn around and said only LGBT community people are allowed to apply for the executive position at Essendon.
Sure.
Like that, I don't know if that's happened or not, but this is an example I'm
Yep.
running with.
Yep.
That is then discrimination against everyone who's heterosexual.
But they've been doing that for years.
Let's take the action further then, and it's a debate in our community right now. Christian schools set themselves up to
Yep.
present different values to their children
Mhm.
that the mainstream schools do.
Absolutely.
They're trying to now make it that if you don't hire someone of a different viewpoint or lifestyle, that you've actually discriminated. Where does that fit in the whole context of what we're doing now?
So with that one as well, again, it should be the point of the school itself has their own curriculum on top of what they have to do teach per the education side of things. If the teacher is happy to teach the curriculum set out by the school, because that's the employment contract, great. But the thing is, if you're a teacher and you don't want to teach Christian values, you shouldn't be applying at a Christian school.
But you know why they do? Because the pay is higher. It's as simple as that. So you're making a commercial decision right then and there, right? You are saying my ethics are for sale, right? And don't get me wrong, we're all for sale to a degree.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say it, it's a reality.
Everyone's
right?
got a price.
Everyone's got a price. But if you're a teacher and you choose to not work in a lower socioeconomic area or whatever, or you want to go to an expensive school, work there because you're getting paid twice as much, right? Then you know what? You have just said that you're taking on the values of that school, right?
That
That's
employer.
what you've said.
And
Exactly
if that
right.
teacher does not follow the guidelines set out by the employer,
Mhm.
so again, this goes back to free trade. So
Yeah.
as an employer, I should be free to hire whoever I want.
Absolutely.
And if you're not doing my job, well, you're fired.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And if that, again, going to the school, if that teacher kicks up a stink saying, oh, no, I'm not teaching that because it's against my beliefs. Well, no, we hired you as a school there's the door.
Yeah. Don't let
Either
it
take
hit
it
you
or
on the
get
ass
out.
on the way out. Exactly right.
So
The fact of the matter is, you are making that decision that when you take that job, they are the rules that you're going to play by that game, right?
yes.
And you can't just like netball, for argument's sake, go, oh well, I don't want to have that emblem on my.
I want your money, but I don't want your emblem.
Exactly right.
So
I mean,
that's the condition of the money.
Exactly. Well, I've got a condition. You know what? Go and play for free then. Go and play for free. Go and play. Go back to the leagues. Well, I mean, I don't know what the following of netball is, and I'll be very careful what I say.
Well, the funny thing is, in the lower leagues, you actually got to pay to play.
Yeah.
So I personally, I think if she doesn't like the sponsorship, then don't play.
Find 15 million elsewhere.
That's right. Well, they have Dan Andrews. All right,
Well,
which
they
is
haven't closed that. Did
no. But
I hope
that's
they
the one that's
don't,
being
because I don't want to be
speculated about.
paying for that sort of shit.
Well, how wrong is that? That you've got Dan Andrews, who's now as Victorian Premier, is saying he's going to use taxpayers' money to virtue single, right?
Yep.
Simple as that. He's going to now impose his personal values, right, on the rest of Victoria with their money. I mean, what could possibly be the thinking?
You know what's really funny?
this?
I never thought I would do this. This is supposed to be a finance show, not a political show.
I know. Okay,
But I think, well, bringing it back to that, I think it's essential. I think it's essential to understand how has politics entered the business world like it has. I think that's the point. We've been talking, we started with censorship. And people just moving, going, we don't like it, we're going to go elsewhere. And I think that's the point.
And that's what's happened with Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you know what? Look, and it is a finance show, but the reality is you can vote with your credit card, with your cash, with whatever you.
Well,
use.
hopefully you're not voting with your credit card. Because you should personal debt is absolutely killing
A
society.
terrible example I've just made. What I'm saying is, okay, but that's how. I mean, you can make your vote that way, and I've certainly done that now. If I see companies, organisations that don't hold my values, right, I simply don't shop.
You know what? Talking of values and companies trying to force things onto it, I'm just looking at the time here, and I thought this is a perfect time for a segue.
Okay, I was going to say a break, but okay.
Carbon footprints. And the CBA deciding to do some of the little dodgy stuff. So how about we hit a break, and then after that we'll let Derek give us a bit of a rundown. A lot of people are getting really annoyed with what the tech giants are doing.
Sure.
And they're showing it by not spending their money with companies that are going woke. And I actually never thought CBA would do something like this. So they're now teaming up with a company called Kogo or GoCo.
Kogo.
So it's a tracking company. So customers of the CBA can now track their carbon footprint based on the purchases they make.
This is insane.
And that's not a joke
insane.
either. That's actually on the CBA website.
Look, just please, 1984 was not an instruction manual. God, seriously,
No,
it's a bloody novel.
It was a prophecy.
Oh yeah, frightening. But like honestly, so being tracked everywhere you go. All right, and how much carbon you use, and all
You're
that
already
sort of
been tracked. So let's be honest with this. Every time you use your card to buy something,
Sure.
you're tracking exactly where it is, who's buying it, what you purchased, how much it was, what time of day it was, who did it, who's using your bank account, all that. They're already buying and selling a lot.
But okay, let me put this in perspective, right? Okay, now without digressing too much, but okay, my ex-wife put tracking on my phone. Okay, she literally knew where I was at every single point, right? Did it without my knowledge, I might add. Okay, and also
hence the reason it's ex-wife.
Ex-wife, exactly right. And also set it up so every time I used my credit card, she got a notification of where I was, how much I spent, all that sort of carry on. Right? Now, that's called stalking, right? And that's called like a domestic violence via control, right? Okay, what's the title I use for that little thing? Coercive control, whatever. It's control. So hang on, how come it's an offence? Mind you, they'll never pursue if the perpetrator is a female, but it's an offence in court, right? You can't track people, you can't stalk people, you can't do that. But it's okay for the CBA to do it. It's okay for your bank to do it. It's okay for all of this. Like,
It's okay for Facebook to do it. How many times have you put it in a Google search, like something really random, and then all of a sudden everything on your Facebook is that random thing?
No, of course.
Well, it's not going to just be isolated CBA. I mean, let's talk about the ramifications of this. So let's say you've bought fuel this week and they go, okay, well, that goes against you as far as your carbon rating is concerned.
Yep.
But you can offset your carbon ratings and neutralize it by a plant at a nursery or something like that and plant a tree.
Right.
This is the sort of thing where it's controlling.
Of course
you've bought too much of this week. you bought beef this week and cows fart, which basically damages the environment, according to whose rule book. There we go. But they're also rolling this out. They're trying to roll this out in Canada. Vancouver City Savings Credit Union, known as Van City, is teamed up with a group over there, and they want to one of the engagement technologies firms in Europe. So it says to me that this is not just isolated to Australia.
Not at all.
Interesting that both of these nations are in the Commonwealth. And
Aren't they both a part of the World Economic Forums as well?
Exactly. And this is, the Gateway pundit has come out and made the tie to the whole World Economic Forum in this measure and said, look, this is what's really, really going on here. You combine that, though, with this whole government-issued cryptocurrency type idea as well. And you can see Brave New World, as you've mentioned, or 1984, come to foreplay here, where it's just getting closer and closer to controlling what you buy, what you spend, how you buy, how you spend, who you pay, according to whose rule book. Exactly. And we're seeing this already in China, and we all go as the Western world, this is terrible, we won't want to do it, and yet it's happening right under your nose. And it's time for people who don't want that to occur to push back and say, no, not happening.
Okay, let's look at practical measures for pushing back, though.
Okay,
First of all, close your CBA accounts.
that is it's take your business elsewhere.
Yeah, take your
it's
business
a good
elsewhere.
way to push customers away. That's what I'm finding, the one benefit out of this. And it's really showing. It's funny how, and we were discussing this before the break, it's funny how the true colors of companies are coming to the surface here. And maybe that's a good thing, guys. Maybe this is a thing we're going,
I suppose it's very true.
we're actually seeing who the people are and what their agendas are as the heat turns up with COVID and all this sort of stuff. We're actually seeing what's already been there all along for all these decades.
So true.
We're seeing who you really are now. And I think that this is an empowerment thing where we have to have courage and stand up. And if we don't agree with it, say no. And basically do that, not only just verbally, but as you've mentioned, with your dollars.
Yep.
Now, the other thing is my big concern, especially seeing how quickly everyone folded to fall in line with McGowan and his instructions on COVID and all that sort of stuff. How quickly do you think the other banks will follow suit? Do you think there's going to be enough of a kickback for the government to turn around and go, you know what, this is actually a bad idea. We're going to lose massive amounts of business and tax revenue through it.
Well, I look at it as an opportunity in the banking sector now. That's how I kind of view it. For a company to say, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to keep your privacy really private. And that actually become their value that they broadcast to the world and say, listen, you want private banking? We'll give you private banking within the law.
This is a great opportunity for places like Bendigo Bank, who've always said we're not the big four banks. We do it differently.
Yeah.
So they can step up now, take the initiative, say, you know what? No, we will not force you to follow this sort of bullshit. We will allow you to spend your money how you choose to spend it. But the other thing I've noticed is in the event that even all the credit unions, let's say the government gets involved and says, all right, now all financial banking institutions have to track your carbon footprint. Because I can see that's the next step going along. The government just massive overreach. They've already shown that they're willing to overreach into COVID and other policies like that. What if the government does take that step? What sort of alternatives can we do to get around the banking sector?
That's where you go to your lawyers and accountants and ask those kind of questions. And be prepared to pay them good money for it.
Yeah, and exactly. Their advice has got value.
Well, that's what people will do. That's where they will go. Right. And that's what it's going. But I think there has to be who makes the decisions of the laws in our land? Politicians. Okay. We can't, as Australians, now just sit back and go, we can't be involved with politics.
I hate that comment.
If you are meant to be involved with politics, you better get off your backside and do something because while you can. Right. Otherwise,
because the clock is ticking.
Well, I'm putting my political hat on here.
It's over there.
We have seen Mark McGowan actively take steps since the last election to reduce the amount of representation you can have in politics. So we've actually seen him, after saying that he wasn't going to mess with the boundaries or anything like that, he passed it at 1:40 a.m. in the morning. And he changed all the regulations around registering a political party, the regions for the political parties, what's actually required by political parties. So he's actually already this is total my speculations here. No mandatory vaccination party won't exist. Liberal Democrats won't be out the next state election. UAP won't be out the next state election. And I'm questioning whether farmers and shooters will be out this next state election.
Wow.
So when you have a look at the different minor parties out there, and Great Australia Party, I don't think they'll make it either.
Okay. Okay.
That's my prediction.
Sure. I don't like the term minor parties.
I hate to say it, that's what they are.
But they're a smaller party. It's as simple as that. I don't think they're a minor party. I think
Well, in WA, the Liberal Party is a minor party.
yeah, good point. Good point. Okay. Okay. It's sad reality. How you going there, David Honey, with that? But
Mr. 9%.
oh, just insane. But going back on what we were talking about before, again, look, we live in theoretically a world of free enterprise, okay, in a country that's
No,
free.
we're not.
I said theoretically, okay, but you can vote, okay, with your dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Now, funny enough, lately I've had experience with my bank, which I was very, very unhappy with as far as customer service was absolutely atrocious. And I don't like the fact that they farmed all of their customer service offshore. There's literally no one in Australia that I can speak to, and they refuse to allow me to speak to someone in Australia, right? So I haven't had any resolution for the issues that are going on. So it's very, very simple. I'm placing everything, organizing things, and I'm closing that account. They will now lose my business, right? This is the way we need, we talk about politics and we talk about money. Well, this is the way you vote financially, right? You take that money away from them, and then you know what? Their policies change.
Yep. I have to say, one company I was really, really surprised with, we had our printer, we had a lot of problems with it.
Sure.
And I'll openly admit it was Epson. We got a high-end photography printer at home, and it shut itself. A weird little spring on the inside snapped off, and there was no way in hell my hand was fit to put it back in. And so he called up, dude with a Philippine accent, because it was a Saturday. He's like, and he was open with it. Yeah, no, I'm in the Philippines. So what I'll do, I'll contact the Australian team. They'll call you on Monday.
Yeah.
In the meantime, do you need print immediately? Can we send another machine out to you? No, we can wait, whatever. And sure enough, 9 o'clock Monday morning, guy in Australia called us up immediately. That afternoon, we had the technician out our place.
That's good. That's
Like,
service that you can be proud of, and that's service that you will keep your business with.
Are insanely expensive printers. Their ink are insanely expensive, but I hate to say it. After that customer service experience, he saved us a contract just because of how fast they responded.
Vote with your cash.
You also said voting with the cash and we as a customer, but also the entrepreneurs can rise up and offer these alternatives so people can go and move the business there.
There's what you keep saying. Opportunity.
There you go,
right?
Derek. Make a bank that will keep your private information private.
By next Monday, that'd be great.
No pressure. Okay, cool. Well, the business
and you'll have to get all the financial approvals and all that, and the licensing.
That's right.
I hate to see what licensing for that would be.
Wow. But we talk about again. These we've got effectively two parties in Australia who are controlling politics, and we've got 4 banks, right? Okay. We need
4 parties.
Oh no, I'm talking about actually genuinely control things.
Greens Nationals.
Look, no. I don't believe that.
You're saying the Greens don't dictate over the Labor?
Oh, I think
of course they do.
I think they've got far
Same
too
as
much
the
control.
Nationals
I think
have
they've
too
got
much
far
influence
too
on
much
the
control.
Liberals.
Yeah, okay.
The Greens and Nationals are an absolute cancer on the 2 major parties. They can't get rid of them, but they can't control them.
But what I'm getting at, mate, is in very simple terms. Why are we allowing 4 banks to dictate to us when there's so many financial institutions out there, products out there that we could be using? And you're right. This is an opportunity for someone like, and we use Bendigo as an example, they could step up and say, hey, we'll protect you.
There is that, Aaron, but the other side of it is this too, okay, I deal in stock options trading and that sort of stuff, right? The Australian Stock Exchange used to be very liquid in the options market. What happened was too much regulation got into play. Okay.
Imagine regulation getting in the way.
So what was occurring, right, is every time the government changed how they wanted options to trade and that, they'd have to bring in the lawyers, these companies, change the rule book, the terms and conditions and all the stuff that they issue, or do all the internal changes and all the internal documents, and then they go change the rule book again and kept changing rules. Finally, they go, you know what? The market in Australia for this sort of market is just too small.
Right.
There's bigger money elsewhere. It's more efficient to do it overseas. Forget it. So the liquidity in the stock options trading market in Australia dropped dramatically.
Now, what year would that be, or what years?
Oh, that was going back about 15 years.
Okay.
15 to 20 years. And
that's back when you still had hair, Aaron.
Yeah, plenty of it.
So, it's kind of like, is it commercially viable to go through all the headaches of that regulation? And that's the biggest problem here. You say, we should start up a new bank. And a lot of banks will go, well, what's the population size of Australia?
Yeah. Okay.
How much regulation has it got? Why would you?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm actually looking at the opportunity of the existing banks. As I say, I'm not going to go start a bank, but the existing banks, there is smaller banks and building societies and that sort of thing could step up to the mark, right?
But
They
even if,
could
because
definitely
they're a
fill that
deposit
product.
taking institution, they're still governed by
Sure.
the regulations that the government puts
Yeah.
in place. So even if they do want to step up, if the government legislates it, there's nothing they can do.
True.
So you got to remember, everything you live your life by, whether it's in the building industry, whether it's in the finance industry, whether it's in the radio industry, we're governed by what the government says, what you can and can't do. And this is why politics is so important in society. And it really shits me when people turn around and say, "Oh, I don't like politics, I don't get involved." And it's like, well, you're a slave. You do it infuriates me because they just have no idea. It's like trying to play Monopoly without reading the rule book first.
Well, I did that, but okay.
No, same with Monopoly, you just make your own rules up when you're
Yeah, pretty
at
much
home.
on the
So,
roll. Yeah.
You
Free parking
negotiate
for
the
the win.
deals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
God, you negotiate your way through the entire game. Trust me.
How's this? I've actually read the rule books for the first time, like with the daughter.
Right.
And it's anyone who lands on a property, if you don't want it, it goes up to auction.
So I didn't know that.
There
There you
you
go.
So like anyone can buy a house,
Right.
even if you don't land on it. So,
This is back to the US a few years ago when they were throwing out home loans before the GFC, right? Everyone can have a house.
there's a mortgage for you,
Yeah.
mortgage for you. Everyone gets a mortgage, said Whitney Houston. No, not Whitney Houston. What's the other one? Talk show.
I think of the
Oprah
greatest
Winfrey.
love of all. but- And we do it on two levels. We do it for people who are starting out, and trying to get their head around how does the whole game work. But we tie it into whatever your life purpose is. What is it that you
Absolutely.
really should be doing? Because most people absolutely hate their job or
Yep.
what they're doing. 80% of the population have been like that
Yeah.
and have gone, "Hey, what's this about?" And we've been aware of this. We've been on this since 2015.
Keep it out of the wild.
The other part we do is that we educate people who want to know more about the stock market and how that's played,
Sure.
and how professional traders trade the market.
Sure.
I trade for other people, part of a group that does that,
Sure.
and we show some of our secrets and how we do that. And
I think
again,
you
tie it
said-
into your life purpose.
Use the word play. You said, play the stock market. Very true. That's what it's a bit of a game.
It is a
Get
game.
those happy tickets, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about keeping it as a game is it helps me stay less emotional about money.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true.
Because
This is
people
true.
get, I worked in law, accounting, financial planning firms. People get very emotional about money, and especially if they're losing. And if you keep it as a game and how do I navigate through this, it keeps a good perspective on it because you stay kind of neutral in terms of your emotions on it.
I like it. We're definitely need neutral. All right. Now, Derek.
Big news last week. I don't know if some people get excited about it. The media certainly does. The big budget was announced.
Oh,
by the
wasn't it
The
exciting?
big budget, I think that's an overstatement.
How much can we spend on where are the votes and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, where are the votes?
How can we hide our pork barreling this year?
It's interesting because, of course, everyone blames the previous government for what we're inheriting and all that sort of stuff. Look, the big standouts were, of course, 20 billion to upgrade Australia's electricity grid to connect with renewable energy sources, they're saying. So they want to spend 20 billion on that, but it's going to cost you more and hit you more because your electrical bills will go up. That's the news. So, it's going to cost you to save the world.
Well, thanks, China. Okay.
It's really interesting too. I mean, there's some funny anomalies in this that I look at. They talk about how childcare is there's going to be more support for people in childcare with those sort of prices. But the irony is, and this is what cracks me up, is that they're going to spend 10.8 million set aside for the ACCC to review the rising cost of childcare. So paid parental leave scheme will extend to 26 weeks, 4.6 billion to increase childcare subsidy. The one that really gets me on, and housing, this is going to be interesting for, especially yourself who's into real estate, Travis. Government's committed 1 million new homes to be built over 5 years, starting in 2024, and 10 billion to establish the Housing Australia Future Fund, and 350 million is being spent on additional federal funding for the construction of 10,000 affordable homes over 5 years from 2024. States and territories committed to deliver 10,000 homes. I think it's quite interesting too what we're doing on the defence side of things, because everybody's real sensitive about the whole where the world
China.
is.
China.
Where the world is. And this is what gets me. Funding for defence is going to increase by 8% this year and rise to more than 2% of GDP over the forward estimates. Funny this, 46.2 million is going to assist current and former Australian Defence Force members to purchase their own home through the Defence Home Ownership Assistance Scheme, and 233.9 million will be invested to recruit 500 additional staff in the Department of Veterans Affairs to tackle the current claims backlog. So to basically deal paperwork by the sounds
Yeah,
of
it sounds that way.
Why are we spending, okay, those works need to be done, which is great, but then I come back to last week's show where we discussed how $388 million has been given to Ukraine and their war efforts, sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Why aren't we spending it more on our defense thing if the backlog in paperwork? It's just, I just go, look.
Again,
guys,
this is why this show goes politics, money, politics, money, politics, money, because the two are absolutely intertwined. Go for it.
First of all, so we have massive floods over east at the
Mhm.
moment. Like, we do not have the emergency services staff capable of dealing with what's going on over
That's
there.
right.
We have cyclones in WA all the time. We have cyclones in northern Queensland. We have floods. We have bushfires. We have Australia's like just one natural disaster to the next. Now, when shit hits the fence, who do we call?
Not
The
Ghostbusters.
Halloween reference. No, we call the army. We call the defense forces. But
Yes,
the thing
we do.
is, our defense forces are so tiny. We actually don't have the defense force to actually help out with all this sort of shit. So why are we spending so little money? Like the veterans
Mhm.
need that actually, personally, I think that needs to be doubled.
Okay.
So I've got no problems paying with tax money, and I'm happy to pay a higher rate of tax if the money is going to where it's needed. At the
Right.
moment, our veterans seriously need an insane amount of help. They have been abandoned by government after government after government
Absolutely.
after government. They need help now. First thing we need to do is cut back straight away on the amount of waste on foreign aid. We need
Yeah.
to cut that out.
Just cancel it. Just cancel it.
There's a few diplomatic reasons
No,
why there's
no, I don't give a rat's.
there,
I don't,
there are
do
a
not,
few.
do not care. Do not care. Absolutely, no. As far as I'm concerned, you look after
So
your
if a
backyard
third world
first.
country, if a third world country has a tsunami, you have no issue. You have an issue with us helping out there.
I believe in looking after your backyard first.
Yeah.
Okay.
My concern about the money that's going to Ukraine is this: it's not going to
It's-
those who need it. It's
Yeah,
actually ending
absolutely.
up in someone's pocket.
Spot on.
But hang on,
And
but
that's the
but
issue.
to your point, and I get exactly what you were saying. So if a third world country's in an issue, has an issue like that, right? I get that. I just live in the real world, and I know it's not going to the people who need it. I know that
Come
when we
on, my
put that
wife's
money,
Vietnamese. I've seen the corruption firsthand.
yeah, the corruption is just ridiculous. So no, quite frankly, I don't think that these countries can be trusted, and therefore, no, I don't want
Spot
to give
on.
them a
No,
rat's
I think it
bloody
should still be
coin.
given to certain countries in certain situations. But for example, I'm going to use the tsunami example. Instead of saying, "Oh, here's $10 billion, go do what you need to do," right? We will go take our workers who we know can do the job, are qualified, experienced,
Yep.
and they can lead the teams. And we'll go, right, here's the money, and here's the team to manage that money. To
Yeah,
make sure we get the
Yeah,
best
yeah,
bang
yeah.
for our
Yeah.
bucks.
Yeah.
So that's going to reduce the amount of waste. It's going to give workers, and especially if we send them over with the defense forces, they don't get experience in other countries and what they need
Sure.
to do on that as well. But a vast majority of that money that we are wasting on foreign aid needs to be pumped back into our military.
Yeah,
Have a
okay.
look at all the different countries around us who have extremely strong economies. So Singapore, very strong economy.
Sure.
I think they're second only to Israel for the budget GDP spending versus the military spending. America, huge spending on their military. China, huge spending on their military. India, huge spending on their military as well. So all these countries are self-sufficient for their defense,
Mhm.
and yet we have Australia, and we're using what, 2% on our safety and protection. At your family home, if you look at the construction cost of your house, how much are you actually spending on making sure that house is safe? That house is going to stand up to a storm. How much
Sure,
money are you
sure.
spending on the security, the windows, the doors, and all that sort of stuff as well? It just doesn't make sense to have such a low budget on defense, and then a majority of that budget is actually going to past soldiers, not your current soldiers.
You look, and I've got several mates who are in the defense forces, rather. Okay, and I've got two particular ones who have got some really big issues with PTSD. Okay, and I know that the military, and I'm generalising here, but I certainly, for what I've seen, don't treat their people particularly well.
Because
the
they
moment,
don't have the money, they don't have the staff, and they don't have the
well,
resources.
I don't think it's the money. I think it's a misuse of money. I think it's the money not going in the right places.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's the same as again going to a different group of people, the native title claims in WA.
Sure.
So the Noongar people got paid out $750 million over 12 years for Perth and the southwest of WA. They've, in the agreement, they set aside $10 million a year to pay for accountants to manage the trust funds that the money's going to be sitting on.
Wow.
How much of that money is actually going to make it to the people that need the money?
No, it just doesn't happen. That's reality.
Spot on. Like, it's an absolute joke. And then you have all these people, especially like within the Indigenous communities, saying, "Oh, we need a treaty, we need a voice," and all this sort of stuff. Well, but what the hell is native title? Isn't
Yeah,
that
yeah.
a treaty? All right, we'll buy your land off you, and here's a heap of cash for it.
Now we've got
pretty
1 minute
sure
left.
that's a treaty.
1 minute left on the show. So how about we get some summation about this as far as
But my biggest takeaway from the federal budget is this: it was reactionary as opposed to being proactive. It's
Spot on.
it's saying the world is going into recession, so we should prepare for that. Instead of saying, hey, how can we as Australians progress out of whatever might happen globally on the economic fronts there? And I think it's the wrong filter to be tackling it. And it'll cost you if you're on a defensive mode as opposed to a proactive mode.
Sure, absolutely. Look,
So your mindset comes to everything when it comes to money.
to me, the best defense is offense. Simple as that. And I know it's overused, but the reality is we've had situations in our world where we've taken that attitude and it's worked very well. So
The simple fact of the matter for me is this budget is all about just trying to preserve where we are. We do not produce anything. We do not manufacture anything. We do not sell any finished products. Everything is brought into the country.
That's
So
right.
therefore we're spending money. Things are going to get more expensive. Inflation is going out of control. We need to start turning that around, not by increasing interest rates, but we need to start finishing products and
Yes.
selling the finished product.
And
I-
make it easier for the entrepreneur to do so.
absolutely. Cut out the red tape, cut out the bloody green tape, okay, and start
How
manufacturing
about we just
in
cut
this
the
country.
grains out full stop?
Wouldn't that be nice? All right, with that, that's the end of the show. Thank you very much for being part of it, guys. In fact, being it. Jack Whitaker, mate, we'll see you next week.
Look forward to it.
Fantastic. And unfortunately, we'll see him next week. See you, Travis. Catch you then. It is Edge Radio Australia. It's a greater wealth.